Perhaps you knew this, perhaps you didn't, but I'm something of a Final Fantasy fan. I love the Final Fantasy series, but I am also a pretty big fan of the card game Magic the Gathering. I've been playing then since about 1994, 1995 or so. I've done a bunch of tournaments. I was in the first ever Arena Championships a few years ago. That was really cool. I still actively play it to this day. And perhaps you heard, perhaps you haven't, they're doing a Final Fantasy set for Magic the Gathering. It comes out this June. We've known about it for a while, but today they finally started showing off some of the cards for it. It's not going to be all of them, but it's going to be quite a few. And I want to take a moment to watch the presentation to see what these cards are, because I'm so interested in how they try to pull these off. And I'm very curious on how well they represent the different characters from Final Fantasy and make it work within Magic the Gathering mechanics. So I'm going to be really focusing on that. A lot of people watching this probably know nothing about Magic the Gathering. I'll give you some very basic information as we go. There's going to be a lot of detail and nuance that I'm not really going to be able to convey this quickly, but for the most part, you might be able to at least follow along with what's happening. This is me watching this
very, very excited about
live.
We knew we had to do that.
Yeah,
right? That was critical.
And seeing what comes out of this. I am fully prepared to critique and judge everything I see.
Welcome to the first look at Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy. The legends from 16 games are represented in this set, which includes 4 commander decks.
We've seen the
Featured
commander
in the
decks,
4
that was
decks
spoiled
are
already.
Terra, Herald of Hope.
I love that they gave Terra green hair for the record. Also, this artwork is
Tidus, Yuna's Guardian
absolutely
from
fantastic.
Final Fantasy X.
Love all that.
And Y'shtola Knights Blessed from Final Fantasy XIV.
So let's talk about these cards real quick. So these are going to be the commander deck, commander cards. And I saw these a little early. And again, I love all the artwork. But I don't know if I'd necessarily love the card. Let's go through, for example, Terra, Herald of Hope, red, white, black. I don't know if I like or understand those color choices for her. White, absolutely. Red, sure, she's very sorcerer, magic based. But black? Her abilities, she's a 3/3 for red, white, black. Her ability is Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards, which means take 2 cards from the top of your deck, put into the graveyard, and Terra gains flying until end of turn. I get that. Like, that's kind of her going into her Esper form. It's kind of a different way of doing it. I was kind of hoping she would have she'd be like a flip card and her back would be her in her Esper form. I thought that would have been awesome, but whatever. And whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. And if you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Where is that ability coming from? Like this raised dead and necromancy kind of thing for Terra doesn't really fit her at all. I guess it's a creature card with power 3 or less, so it's like her being Mama Terra and helping kids. Cloud X Soldier is a little bit better. 2 red, green, white. Red and white makes a lot of sense for Cloud. A lot of soldiers and warrior type cards are going to be red and white. And then they said they threw green in there just so he made sure he has big creatures for later. He's a 4/4 with haste. And when Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. Yeah, so when he shows up, he gets a weapon right away if you already have one. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control that if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. So again, a lot of this kind of makes sense. Haste, sure. 4 power, 4 toughness, sure. Gets equipment, okay. But when he attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature control. Yeah, but then makes 2 treasure? Why the treasure? I feel like you could replace the name Cloud with anyone else. It would make just as sense. Like, I don't feel like it fully fits him. Tidus at least has his cheer ability. Green, white, blue. Okay, a little different colors. I like that. 3/3. At the beginning of combat of your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. So if you have like a +1/+1 counter, you can move it. If you have a, I don't know, an oil counter or something, you can move it. Which again, like, that doesn't... What about that screams Tidus? These are the commander cards. So maybe they just kind of had to have something right here that you could do build-arounds on, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then his cheer ability is whenever 1 or more creatures you control that with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate, allowing you to get extra counters out. But do this only once each turn. So the cheer part actually makes at least a little bit of sense, but I don't fully understand the counters. And Y'shtola, Knights Blessed, for 1 white, blue, black, as a 2/4 with Vigilance? Why Vigilance? I don't understand that part. That doesn't seem to fit Y'shtola as much. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Okay, that's just a good ability. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, you show it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. Okay, so at least this taps into her Black Mage kind of abilities. And when you're casting larger spells, you get to just drain everybody. That's of all of them, I think Y'shtola probably makes the most sense for the colors they gave her and her abilities. I think the one I disagree with the most is Terra. But again, these are just the commander cards.
In this set, you'll find the boss monsters you love from...
Okay. Okay, there's a lot to love here. Jumbo Cactuar. 5 green. That is a lot of mana for a 1/7. Which is not good. However, whenever Jumbo Cactuar attacks, you get 10,000 needles. It gets plus 9,999 plus 0 until end of turn. It attacks as a 10,007 creature. That probably sounds amazing. Considering most players only have 20 or 40 life, 10,000 damage is going to kill anything. Just straight up. Now that sounds really good, but in Magic the Gathering, for those who don't actively play it, any creature can be blocked by any creature, and it just prevents all the damage hitting the player. So Jumbo Cactuar can attack for 10,000, but I could literally put a 1/1 in front of it and just block all the damage. Now, if there are spells to give this thing trample or something similar, then it's busted and you're dead. But that's just a really funny design. I like that they found a way to get the 10,000 needles in there. I like the Final Fantasy set symbol, where it's like the FF crystal. Also, I also like how in this artwork you can see Irvine and Renoa.
And the Sin Steel's Punishment card.
Ooh, hey Sin. 4 black, green, blue for a 7/7 flyer. That's a really cool art, by the way. Whenever Sin enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. That's a pretty good design. So Sin basically, creating the dreams created by the faith. This kind of represents that, where you're just taking something that's dead and bringing it back to the real life, but as a token copy of it. So it's not a real thing. That's a good design for it. 7/7 flyer, and it happens right when it enters. So you get that ability right away. This set's gonna be super draftable, so I'm very, very interested in all the draft cards for this. Good design on Sin. That's a good one.
And the whimsy of Final Fantasy is
Tonberry. Black for 2/1 Salamander Horror at uncommon. This creature enters tapped with a stun counter on it. So when you play it, it's going to be tapped, so it can't block. The next turn, it's stunned, so it's still going to be tapped and can't block. But the turn after that, it's ready to go, which makes sense since, Tonberries, whenever you find the battle, they're always very far away and they very slowly walk up to you. Using the stun counters to kind of represent that makes a lot of sense. And for a turn, he has First Strike and Death Touch, which makes sense. So he deals his damage first from First Strike, and with Death Touch means he kills anything he damages. Very, very Tonberry. I like that.
Stiltskin Moogle Merchant.
Ooh. Stiltskin from Final Fantasy IX. Stiltskin Moogle Merchant for white. He's a 1/2 with lifelink. Okay. You can pay 2 and tap it. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card. Pretty good design. Stiltskin from Final Fantasy IX as part of the Moogle mail delivery system. Him being a merchant and all that, and basically you sell them something and you get to draw a card off the top of your deck. There's going to be some fun combos where we have Midnight Oil or, I don't know, Dubious Challenge or something. This looks good.
And Saz's Chocobo card.
It's Saz's Chocobo. Green for a 0/1. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Okay, so this is a fundamental reprint of several other cards like that. I mean, not like that starts as a baby and can basically grow. Not that it grows in Final Fantasy 13 at all, but that's an okay design. Hopefully there are other Chocobo cards. Like a mount.
Double-faced cards show character...
Garland. Oh, he's double-faced. Black-red for a 3/2. Human Knight. Good. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1. Sure. And you pay 3 black, red to transform it onto its backside, only as a sorcery. Please transform into chaos. Also, I love these guys. His quote, "I, Garland, will knock you all down." Classic quote. Love that. That's good. Please transform into chaos.
Progression or different forms of the same creature. For example, Garland, Knight of Cornelia, becomes Chaos the Enemy.
Yeah! Oh, that looks awesome! Oh, that's really good art. 5/5 flyer. When chaos dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Interesting that you pay a bunch of mana to flip the Garland over. There was a part of me that was wondering if for this set they're going to bring back the level up mechanic for all the cards, but making it just the flip transform side is just a much cleaner, easier way of doing this. I love this card as well. When it dies, put it on the bottom of its owner library. Do you get it? His time loop. He can never die because the time loop loops him back to the bottom of your deck. He's always there.
Cecil Dark Knight and
wait, go back.
Cecil Redeemed Paladin reflect Cecil's journey in Final Fantasy IV.
Ooh. Wow, there's a lot to take in here. So, the regular card, Cecil, Dark Knight, black for 2/3 Death Touch? That's incredibly strong. And whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, untap Cecil and transform him into Cecil, Redeemed Paladin, a 4/4 lifelink with Protect. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible to end of turn. Okay, so when Cecil attacks, he kind of gets to use his Paladin cover mechanic like in Final Fantasy IV. I love the black Dark Knight version of Cecil a lot. I mean, 2/3 Death Touch for a single black is incredibly strong. Normally for that kind of stat line, you're looking at paying at least 3 mana for it. But he has his Darkness ability, just like from the Final Fantasy IV games. In the Super Famicom version of Final Fantasy IV, they removed this ability in this Western release for whatever reason. Cecil had the Darkness attack, where he'd hold his sword up and like do a wave of dark energy, and it would just hit all enemies, and Cecil would lose a bunch of hit points. And then in the Final Fantasy IV DS remake, they gave him the Darkness ability again, only it's more traditional Dark Knight ability, where he gets a lot more attack power, but every swing he does makes him lose hit points. So the Dark Knight card, making it so you lose life for all the damage Cecil does, makes a lot of sense. And when you get down so much on life, becoming the Paladin also kind of fits in Final Fantasy IV because, you know, Cecil's level, 20-ish or so, and by the time you become a Paladin, you get dropped back down to level 1, and you got, like, no hit points. But then you gain way more as you're fighting and leveling up the Paladin version of Cecil. So that's another really good design. That's a strong card. I can very much see that showing up in a lot of constructed play. And then I love these anime artwork variants because, like, the backdrop just being the solid mana color plus the Roman numerals, that's just so clean and looks so good.
This Emmett Selk Unsundered.
Hell yeah, Emmett. Ooh, Mythic. 1 blue, black for a 2/4 with Vigilance. Whenever it enters or attacks, draw a card, discard a card. That's good. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmett Selk. Oh, that's awesome. So why 14? Now, a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, oh yeah, because Final Fantasy 14. More importantly, this represents the 14 shards within the world of Final Fantasy 14, where there's like, you know, the source main version, and then there's like the 13 alternate universes, basically. And his whole thing was trying to get these all combined back into one. So 14 or more in your graveyard makes a lot of sense for Emmett because he transforms.
Card becomes Hades.
Yeah, Hades. Sorcerer Rebelled, 6/6 Vigilance. Echo of Loss during your turn. You may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. That's incredibly strong. Love it.
With side quests, catch a fish.
Side quest. Okay. It's an enchantment. 2 and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you put a card into your hand this way, you make a food token and transform this enchantment. I am Noctis, Prince of Lucis and King of Fishing. So a food artifact token that you create is just a artifact that you can activate for 2. You sacrifice it, and you gain 3 life. You eat the fish. But more importantly, when you complete the side quests, the side quest is like an all new type of card.
You can go fishing.
What does it transform into?
Card over.
Oh, it transforms into a land that taps for white mana. 3, tap, sacrifice any artifact with a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. I was really hoping the flavor text quote would have just been Ignis going, "That's it! I've come up with a new recipe." So I wonder if all side quests will become lands, or maybe some. I hope there's going to be a side quest cards that becomes like
and cook
a
the fish
weapon
with cooking
equipment
campsite to produce a food token card.
Good food. That's a good
New
food
in
token.
this set are summon.
Summon? Oh, wait, they're making summons as sagas? Okay. 3 blue to summon Shiva. So the way this works is that when it comes down, you do the chapter 1, so the room mineral eye. That effect happens first. Then the next turn, effect chapter 2 happens. And then effect chapter 3 happens. But then after the last chapter, I assume you transform this? All right, so 3 blue for 4/5 Shiva. When it enters, Heavenly Strike, tap target creature opponent controls, put a stun counter on it, aka you ice them. Chapter 3, Diamond Dust. Draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control. I actually like this card a lot.
That combine features of a saga and a creature, so you can go through the steps of the saga and attack or defend at the same time.
Oh, so it just is a creature. It doesn't transform. It just is a 4/5. You can still attack and block with. Oh, wow. So it's just a creature that has multiple ETB abilities every single turn.
The Final Fantasy Through the Ages bonus sheet.
Ooh. Oh, wait. Oh, this is a reprint. I like it though. The Dragon of Mount Gulg, or Gurgu Volcano for Final Fantasy 1 fans, 4 red for the 6/5. So this is actually a reprint of the Ancient Copper Dragon from the Forgotten Realms Dungeons and Dragons set they did for Magic the Gathering. That's why whenever you attack, you roll a d20.
Dragon at Mount Gulg features art by Yoshitaka Amano and Yuffie Kisaragi.
Okay. So they're going to do cards where it's basically showing the original artwork. There's a Yuffie card. Oh, but this is a reprint of Yuriko. I see. Okay, so they're going to do some reprints of older cards just with Final Fantasy art on it. So Yuffie is a reprint of Yuriko.
Sephiroth Planet's Heir. And
so I did see that they actually have a starter kit coming, which is surprising. They haven't released like just actual starter kits, 2-player deck starter kits in quite some time. But it's a Cloud versus Sephiroth deck. So if you actually take the 2 artworks and put them together, it makes one continuous picture. Sephiroth is for blue-black? Black for sure. I don't know about blue. I would have done red personally, but maybe they didn't want to do that since Cloud is red-white. Sephiroth's a 4/4 Vigilance. When he enters, creatures your opponent control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Sure. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Sephiroth. Yeah, that's fine. Again, those abilities don't really scream Sephiroth to me. But I think, again, these are probably going to be more... These might just be the starter deck only cards, and they'll have separate Cloud Sephiroth cards within the boosters and things. At least I'm hoping. Cloud's 3 red-white for a 4/4, but on your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped, he has Double Strike and Indestructible, which is incredibly strong. And equip abilities you activate the target Cloud cost 2 less to activate, so it's easy to equip them.
Cloud Planet's Champion cards. Face off and
So
ready
they
to play
have to have
decks
a
from the
Buster
starter
Sword
kit.
card, right?
Check them out.
They have to. Of all the weapons.
All of this and more in Magic the Gathering.
I'm going to purchase an irresponsible amount of Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering cards. Like, truly irresponsible. I'll open them all up on stream though. It'll be fun. Download this video's sponsor, Opera GX. Links in the description. The first free web browser built for gamers. It's got built-in ad block, built-in VPN, built-in games release calendar. See what's coming out. Every single download helps me out. It's free for you. And everyone who downloads and installs it helps me afford more Final Fantasy cards. There's a lot of good stuff there. So importantly, you can see here that there's artwork on this booster box that we have not seen on cards yet. They don't do that. Any artwork that shows up on boosters is taken directly from cards. So there are indeed other Cloud, Terra, Y'shtola cards. More importantly, we got a first look at Warrior of Light. All that art looks so good. I love that the collector's boosters is the Terra art, which again is different Terra art.
Go to the next slide here. I love the borderless character.
Ooh.
It's like so sassy.
So there's the alternate arts of Emmett Selk. The extended art on the right where they get rid of the borders is pretty typical for other ones, but on the left, look how different this is for Emmett Selk, which is, again, fantastic art of him. You can see the 14 symbol behind him. And then that's just really cool Hades art with the hands coming up in front of the actual like magic border and all that. That looks so good. So the summons did work how I thought with like normal saga. So basically it's a creature that only lasts for so many turns. But it's a very efficient creature and has a lot of powerful abilities in that time. That's a really cool design. That's a really good way of doing summons. I thought a lot of the summons were going to be just their own legendary creature cards, but making them into the actual summon mechanic when they're only there for a little bit before they pop off. That's a much cooler way of doing it than what I thought of. Okay, so I guess I can see what they're trying to go for here. Now that I'm seeing the actual commander box for the Terra commander deck, it says fill your graveyard, revive your fallen heroes. I guess that could fit into the theme of Final Fantasy VI's World of Ruin, where you're trying to bring the party all back together. That's, I guess, the closest thing I could think of that they're going for. But if they're going for that, it should be a Celis card, not a Terra. But, you know, they went for Terra because they wanted to be the most iconic character of Final Fantasy VI, but that would be a little bit more befitting of Celis. Also, I hope they do... There's alternate art of the Catch a Fish side quest card, only it's Celis on her hands and knees, just wading through beach water.
And that's what Terra's doing here right now.
Look at this Terra art. Gorgeous. Absolutely love it. I feel like they tried to find the middle point between her having green hair and blonde hair. Didn't want to commit to one or the other. Just make it green, damn you. That looks really, really good. Here's the Cloud borderless character card, which looks good. I mean, that is Cloud in his typical Cloud pose. Not a whole lot different there, or much to say about it. Oh, I get it now. Now I see why they're going for the counter things with Tidus. It's supposed to represent the sphere grid. So instead of spheres, it's counters, and moving that around and proliferating to basically level them up or improve them. Okay, I get it now. That makes sense. I hope there's a weapon equipment card that's just a blitzball. It's just like, give them +1/+L and reach. Equip cost 2. This is the Tidus borderless character card. This is actually one where I think I prefer the regular art version over the borderless. The Y'shtola borderless character card, which again, looks good, but I think I prefer the regular one here. I don't like it when they get too anime. This Y'shtola is pretty anime. The Q&A section, they were just saying that for the most part, they're going to be focusing on just all the original games. So for stuff, cards like Final Fantasy VII, we're not going to see a lot of cards for Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth, but there might be like hints towards it, like costumes or backgrounds or set pieces, but there won't be any specific Final Fantasy VII Remake / Rebirth cards, which makes a lot of sense. So we probably won't see like a Roche card.
Blink aggressively if there's a Buster Sword. Thanks.
Okay, so Gavin Harvey just blinked aggressively. There is indeed a Buster Sword card. Surprising no one.
Your favorite item, there's a very, very, very good chance it is in the set.
Yeah.
There you go. So he's also saying the obvious stuff is going to be in there. And I think a lot of people are probably going to wonder which characters from all the different Final Fantasy games are going to appear in this set. And my thought process is, basically, if they showed up in the Final Fantasy Dissidia games, they're going to be a card in the Magic the Gathering set. So every main hero and main villain from each game, respectively, is going to show up in the Final Fantasy set. That's like base foundation level. There could very easily be more than that. Like, for example, we got Cloud and Sephiroth, but it'd be stupid of them not to have like an Aerith card or a Tifa card. Like for Final Fantasy IX, it's going to be Zidane and Kuja for sure, but also like, if they don't have a Vivi, that's a dumb mistake. So they said the obvious ones are going to be in there, which makes a lot of sense to me.
Or we're going to tie.
Well, that's all they had for the presentation. That's surprisingly short, but everything they've shown so far has been really good and very exciting. I'm very excited for this, obviously, as a Magic player and Final Fantasy player. Like, I was going to buy the crap and play it a lot already, but just seeing some of the designs and what they're planning for it is excellent. I don't personally play Commander, but I'll make a Final Fantasy Commander deck, especially if they make a Lock Cole card, I'm in. That's my commander. I don't know if he exists or will be a card. I think there's going to be a lot of characters who may not have their own individual creature card, but they'll like show up in artwork of others, like how in the Jumbo Cactuar card, we saw Renoa and Irvine. I could see Renoa having her own card. Irvine, maybe. We'll have to see on that. If Locke were to be a card, I would make him say, I don't know, 1 blue black for 2/3 rogue. Maybe give him like Skulk or something like that. And whenever Locke deals combat damage to a player, you create that many treasure tokens, sacrifice X treasure tokens, take control of target artifact with mana value X or less. So he treasure hunts, right? And then he can steal using that treasure by grabbing artifacts. That's a good Lock Cole card. You're welcome. It's not too late to print it, right? So I would love to see characters like that. I would love to see characters like Sabin, Kane would be excellent. But I also got a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of cards that are more generic for just to help kind of fill the different creature bases. Like we'll see a lot of Final Fantasy monsters. We saw Tonberry. We'll see stuff like Bomb, maybe Zoo. I probably won't see Goblin because Goblin already exists quite a bit in Magic, but some of the more iconic ones. But then for a lot of other creature cards, I could see them, doing the more generic ones. Like I could see there just being cards just called like Red Mage, Black Mage, Knight, Monk, just very generic soldier, whatever kind of dorky creatures to kind of just round things out along with all the iconic creatures. It would be cool if they based those off of Final Fantasy Tactics to kind of get that Final Fantasy Tactics representation in there. Or it could just be, I don't know, the Final Fantasy 3 Onion Knights or Final Fantasy 5 characters or other games with job systems, just as showing up as those kind of more generic cards. Like a Geomancer card would be cool, Dark Knights. But so far, this is excellent, and I'm very excited for it. And I don't know when they're going to show more, but I'm going to be all over it. I'll be streaming it when the actual set comes out. I'll be playing it a lot online. I'll be streaming it over on Twitch. If you haven't seen, I've been playing through an all-new fan-made Magic the Gathering RPG game over on my gameplay channel. And the Final Fantasy cards are going to be added to that, so I might be making some Final Fantasy decks early just from playing that game. Be sure to check out my channel over there, subscribe, and watch all that. But I hope you enjoyed this early look at the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy cards. I was hoping that I could provide a little bit of insight into it as someone who's both a fan of Final Fantasy and knows how Magic the Gathering works. Usually it's one or the other, but having them kind of combined in the way they represented the different cards and their mechanics and all that was really, really good. I've been very impressed, which makes me very excited to see what other cards that they come up with. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if any of this got you interested and want to see more of the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set, or if you want to see more videos about it from me, also let me know in the comments down below, and hopefully I'll be sitting across from you at the table with our Final Fantasy decks ready to throw down.